Me.
So here we are. We are with Edwin Cohen, broadcast master. Hello, Edwin. This is welcome to the Voices of Change show.
I am really
For people
happy
who
to
make a
be on your
change.
show. I'm really happy to be on your show and merci beaucoup for this opportunity.
Avec grand plaisir. Et bonjour, puisque chez toi c'est le matin et chez moi c'est le soir.
Well, we're going to have a good time. So,
Yes,
allow me to introduce myself real brief,
of
and
course.
then we could talk about reinvention if you want. And I apologize for the glare here. I'm trying to adjust my lighting. Okay. So,
But you look great.
oh, you're happy. Good. Thank you. Okay. So, I am going to introduce myself and for your audience, and I welcome people to contact me to discuss. My direct email is publisher@globalbusiness.media, and that'll come right to me worldwide.
Okay, because let's just tell our listeners that you are one of the most famous broadcaster on earth.
Uh, no. Anyway, I am. That's funny. So, briefly, um, je m'appelle Ed Cohen, and I'm the broadcaster of Global TV Talk Show, which is a business unit of globalbusinessnews.net, based in California. And so my job is to bring together business people from across borders, from across time and cultures, to come together in a global teleconference. I call it Global TV Talk Show. Why? To meet, be introduced, exchange ideas, talk things through about a common topic or just shooting the breeze. My job is to bring people together in this pandemic era, which is thankfully evolving, but Zoom will persist. And this medium is terrific if you use it correctly. So we want to help business people meet and build rapport that could last a lifetime if they're lucky. I am Global TV Talk Show.
Yes, that's great. That's a great 7 second pitch. Hey, you progress. You are a work in progress.
So I was reading it here, and that's why I
Yes.
had this
Well,
light
this is
on
being
here.
recorded, right?
Yeah, well, you're the recorder. No, but
And it's
you
going
know,
to
but
go live. So tell us, Ed, how do you make a change? I mean, and how do you people who you invite on your broadcast show make a change?
so here's the secret sauce: is to be authentic. And you just saw authenticity, me adjusting my chair and moving around, and without these, I can't really see clearly. So, and I don't want to. So anyway, what I used to do, I mean, for years. So anyway, when I was a kid, I started out at 15 or so, working part time, being a salesman. Um, but as a kid, because we were appealing to boomers who were all about the same age. And so I was retained by an advertising agency to sell stuff on TV uh, in the early days. All right. And so I did it for a while. And then I didn't want to do it anymore. I don't know why. But wrong connections, wrong people. But I like the idea of being in front of the camera. And the idea is just to be yourself and not put on any phony airs. Sure, there could be a script, but it's what you do with it and how you explain yourself, whether it's an idea, a place to go, or a
Of
restaurant
course,
to
of
visit,
course, of
or a
course.
product to use.
Well, tell
So
us, Ed, tell us, who was the little Ed? I want to know more about you when you were a kid.
I stuttered. And I, so this is part of my therapy of reinvention. So I don't know. I couldn't get P and R's together or whatever. And so it
Okay.
was a mess. And, all the girls laughed at me in school. And so I was afraid to raise my hand. And so finally I got some counseling in school. Uh, they pulled me out of some classes and gave me a closed room session with a shrink. Uh,
Okay.
actually, he actually he was the football coach, okay, in high school, right? And I don't play football. I was a track guy, okay. I ran track, okay. But so he says, "What's going on? How come you're stuttering? How come you can't blah blah blah?" Yeah? And so
Can you stop making that noise with your pen?
oh no, it's my nervous thing. All right, I'll hold my
You're
hand.
not used to being on on a podcast, yeah, because you podcast people yourself. Hey, hey, hey.
I know I put them at on the point.
That's
So
right. And so,
yeah,
so when did this start at all? I mean, you were a nice kid, very very curious, very lively.
yeah. So anyway, um, this was like I was 14. Okay, going and I had some acne. Oh God. So uh, yeah. Uh, so anyway, this big burly guy, with a crew cut and shoulders out to there, and here
Okay.
I am, this little puny, skinny guy, and so he says, "So do you like sports?" And and I said, "Yeah, I like sports." So he says, "How come you didn't stutter just then?" Yeah, geez, I don't know. I'm comfortable with you. I don't. you're not asking me to say words that have double consonants or something. I don't know. So he says, "Okay, here's the sports page," and this was in the Boston area.
Mm-hmm.
So the Boston Globe is a big newspaper. He says, "Okay, here's the Red Sox. They're playing ball. Read this story to me, and just take your time and try not to stutter." And so I started reading. So Ted Williams hit a home run, and some other guy was pitching, and some other guy on the team stole a base and created a run producing scenario. Okay. And he says, "How come you didn't stutter?" I said, "Geez, I don't know." So here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit there and take 5 minutes and just continue reading that news story to yourself and don't speak. And I'll be right back. I'm going down the hall. And I'll never forget this. So he came back in and he says, "Excuse me, don't read what you just read, but just tell me, what did you just read?"
Yeah, that's
That,
great. This is exactly the same type of advice that I give when I coach people in public speaking. I tell them, don't write your speech, just speak it. Just point out the main issues from heart
comes from,
that you
comes
have
from,
from your heart, and then speak your speech. Because if you write it, getting from writing to speaking is nonsense. So you are a brilliant speaker.
yeah. So you know what? I until recently I shied away from being in front of the camera because it's been years. But you know what? Let me back up and tell you the real story here, and I'll be real brief. Um, our first live business conference, where we brought together some of my advertisers with some of my users, both customers. So I was at the time publishing California bound professional relocation guides, which is a glossy magazine, about 150, 200 pages, full of information about where to live in greater LA. And so the guidebook, and with color pictures and lots of facts and figures about real estate prices and school systems and commuting, and some other pages about sports teams and the beach and surfing and whatever. So it was a big hit. It was designed to be a recruitment guide by company personnel managers trying to recruit and build up employment teams,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in aerospace, particularly in defense work, and of course in consumer because it's California lifestyle, the beach, outside living. 24/7
Mm.
all year. Okay, and so the only trouble at that time, which was, I'm dating myself now, going back to early 1980s, um, the interest rates in the US for mortgages were like 18, 19%, which was crazy, right? And nobody could afford to buy a house
Yeah, it was the same in France.
except those people who were being recruited by large companies who had big bucks and they wanted talent, computer scientists, artists, salespeople, technical people, engineers, to work in industry in LA, greater LA, Southern California, which is, of course, a huge area. And
Mm.
so they would help people buy a house, guaranteed recruitment bonus. All right. By
Okay,
helping them qualify and guaranteeing, as long as they stayed employed, that there'll be money there to pay the mortgage.
that's
And
great.
then they did that. And so we wrote that up in story type, put it in this magazine, because internet didn't exist legally at that time. We'll talk about that in a minute, but um, it was all print, paper, and if you could record it, on a tape recorder and then play a speech, yeah, you could do that. Uh, but the combination of that, the way multimedia is structured today, it didn't exist then, except in Hollywood. And that's where I was, all right, in LA. So I partnered up with, amongst other people, the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce with downtown, and everybody wore a tie, so I did too. And so they had me come and talk to their board because they really liked the idea of this California bound guidebook uh, as a PR device, right? And
Hmm.
I didn't know much about relocation business, but I knew a lot about PR and advertising and how to build a concept and get it in front of people. And of course, by this time I had conquered the stuttering thing, so I wasn't afraid to speak. But I carefully did not use PR and other words. So Chamber of Commerce became a partner to me. They bought thousands of these guidebooks at $4, $4 a piece. I
That's
mean,
a great success story.
they they bought during the 80s probably 500,000, okay,
Wow.
at that price, and then they sold them at $10, and they kept all the money. I didn't care, you know. And then
Yeah, well,
I got all this
it
distribution.
was a win-win deal, right?
Yeah. So then I had advertisers, and it was mostly real estate advertiser and some banks, but the users, the customers, were Boeing and Northrop Grumman and IBM and aerospace companies and engineering companies, in addition to Paramount Pictures and 20th Century Fox,
Mm.
which which were less than a mile away from where I lived. Okay, and so they became customers also, and they really liked the whole idea of newcomer guides. And you know who else liked that idea? Um, the governor of California through the Economic Development
Okay.
Organization about attracting business.
That was really making a change for people then, because at that time, all those things were not really existing. I mean, you were probably one of the first who were doing this.
Yeah, but I wasn't smart enough to build it up right away. And so I kept it going and tried to perfect it rather than branch out. Eventually, I formed US Bound, and under that was New York Bound, Florida Bound, Texas Bound, Chicago Bound, California Bound, and you know, and they would, and I had a really hard time franchising, and then I went to hiring people, and and then I hit a wall because I don't know anything about all that, and people
Yeah, well, and
thought I was
so
crazy.
did you have a did your company break or did you have a
No, but a marriage broke at that time.
Oh,
and,
that's
and
another story.
no, it became the story, and it cost me a lot. Um, so I kept doing it, but I changed the nature of it, and I expanded our conference business. Our very first conference was in 1984, live conference, bringing people together to meet, exchange ideas within a business setting. Now, that concept is not new, but applied to this industry, this relocation,
Hmm.
recruitment function, the guidebook was the star, and all the people that I did business with or who used the guide came together in the basement lunchroom at the LA Chamber of Commerce. Not fancy, let me tell you. It was like a cafeteria. And and then I had speakers from Apple Computer and Paramount Pictures and Bank of America, as well as some lesser names, about how they used it and why it worked and blah, 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 right? And then I had sponsors who are my advertisers have a little table, and they all got introduced, and I let them all speak a little bit.
So
And
this is
that
still
was
what you're doing right now, eh?
until March 1st, 2020, when COVID struck and shut everything down here.
Yeah.
And and then
Well, because
that
I remember ourselves organizing conferences all over the place. I mean, you were organizing one or two or three conferences in Paris. I spoke also in Zurich for you, I remember. And
yeah,
and since the COVID, what have you been doing? How did you make a change then?
well, we were forced almost into bankruptcy because all the money stopped coming. Because we made money building conferences, sponsors, ticket sales.
Of course.
We had ongoing side business of advertising, but we never paid attention to that. So our very last meetings were on February 25 in New York City in Times Square, inside the accounting offices of a tax firm called RSM, and we had like 100 people in their meeting room overlooking Times Square. It was a wonderful environment, and that was followed by 2 days later, Washington D.C., February 27, which proved to be the very last live meeting I was able to produce because of the pandemic, and that was in Washington D.C. on Embassy Row, which is a very fancy area where embassies are from around the world, and it's also a neighborhood where Embassy Road is. It's a neighborhood where uh, Obama now lives, uh,
Okay.
and also down the street from where Obama was living, still is, were Ivanka Trump and Jared and their family. And so, just to give you an idea of the nature of the area, tight security everywhere. So, our meeting was set up to happen previous to all this uh, by a friend of mine who was the manager, the curator of this mansion on Embassy Road that was the historic home of President Woodrow Wilson, who was US president, guess what, during the 1918-20 pandemic of flu, and right after World War I. And he was instrumental in helping set up the League of Nations with some others, of course. And so the meeting was held in his parlor, which was very elegant, a nice place. So at that meeting, we had a couple of people from embassies, but more so corporate, and some NGOs, and a bunch of services experts. And it was quite elegant. And, the room was filled. But after that meeting on February 27, I flew back to California on a late flight out of Reagan National Airport. And other than the flight crew, it was me and three or four other people on the plane. The whole plane was empty, and which is very unusual. And so I knew that something bad was coming. And sure enough, 2, 3 days later, everything shut down. And there went our business. And so the question became, now what? And so it was
And so,
back
how
to the
did you reinvent yourself?
it was back to the future. So I had been complaining to some people who I talk with a lot about how tired I was and how much money it costs to fly around, stay in hotels, and produce these events, even though there was some profit in it. And there was like in the Washington meeting, which was wonderful, there was no Zoom. There was no people other than who was in that room. 50 people, right? Now it was the right people, so it was nice to be there. But
Well, it's better to have the quality than the quantity, right?
wouldn't it be great to have you speak to our group by big screen TV? So I thought this is a no-brainer. It's a teleconference that's been around forever. All you got to do is turn on TV and look at the news. They have interviews with people from around the world, talking with the guy in New York, right, by screen. And so that's what we're going to do. And so Paul, producer Paul, and I put our heads together. Now I had known Paul since 2010, just about the time you and I met, but he was at the time a chief engineer for World Talk Radio, which was the forerunner, one of the inventors of commercializing the internet for, they call it podcasts. It's a radio show, right? Talk show. Only you got the world, not just WKRP, in Cincinnati. So he says, come, let's do shows. You've got a good voice and you got a good market. And so we started doing radio shows, podcasts, interviews, just by internet, right? But
Yeah. And so,
just
how
just
how do you
audio,
do? How do you
just
do to
audio.
monetize this? Because this is what our listeners are really interested in: is how do you monetize your shows and how you get money out of them?
Well, you can ask for some people to pay you for the PR, but most aren't going to have the money or the interest to pay me. They want the PR. So yeah, you can get a little bit of money out of it, but the big money is in a network of several shows, top quality with good people and good info exchange and not boring. And you find sponsors and give them space and introduce the sponsors. And the advertisement is a banner link, and you put it right on their program, and you put it on a web page that I build to support each of the broadcasts. And so people can go and read up about, and other things and other links are on the web page. And there's the click to the podcast radio show. So our theme song on the globalradiotalkshow.com, going back to 2010, has been Louis Armstrong. And what a wonderful world it could be. And so every time you go to that globalradiotalkshow.com, even today, you're going to hear that song.
That's
And
great.
so, okay, so then we said, it's a no-brainer. We've got to get comfortable looking at this green light up here and being camera ready. So, you camera ready? Yeah, you look. You're the
I am.
you're the red tornado wearing that, and with all with all your energy. And so we decided that, okay, I've got all these contacts who would never travel to one of my conferences in the US or in London or even Paris unless they were very close. And even then. So here's a way to bring together people from across borders, across cultures, across time, but everybody's sort of connected at the time to this business of talent management across borders and to discuss policies and practices and to make new introductions. And so at that time, and up until recently, that was the 100% focus on our TV broadcast, which we call Global TV Talk Show, right? What else? It's not a webinar. I hate webinars. It's so boring. Um, Yet some people do it, and they even charge for it.
They can be boring, but some webinars can be really interesting. I mean, just wait until you attend one of my webinars.
Well, we're going to hear from you in just a second when I stop talking. And notice I haven't really started. So,
Well, we have to end the talk in a couple of minutes, so you better be quick.
okay, so I want you to tell the audience the science behind the 7-second pitch, sort of what I stumbled over in the beginning. But you're the professional. So I'm going to throw this back to you, Christine Morlet, like Chevrolet. And
Yeah, well,
what is the
that's
science behind that?
the science behind the 7-second pitch, Ed, is very, very simple. It has to have first name, last name, and function if necessary. And then I help target group or target group of people who suffer from this, who have issues about this or that, get benefit. I am brand. That's so easy. So I am Christine Morlet, speech coach, like Chevrolet. I help entrepreneurs who struggle with the structure of their keynote or who don't know what to do with their hands when they speak. I help them become memorable. I am the positive influence specialist. That's my 7-second pitch. You see, so it's always the same. You have first name, last name, function. I help target group who have issues or problems, get benefit. I am brand. That's what it's all about. And this can go around the world. I mean, it's great. It's a great way to introduce yourself if you don't have so much time to do it. But
So,
actually, this talk show was about you. So
but
before we
I am nothing without you, Christine.
oh, come on. Yeah, that's so kind of you. But before we end up this Voices of Change show, because this is my show, I would like you to tell us one really nice trick that people can then reproduce if they want to launch their show.
Their own show.
Yeah.
So first of all, they have to be comfortable in front of the camera and respect it and actually make love to it. Okay? Because it will love you.
It's true. Yes, it's true. Yeah, you're right. And be comfortable in front of a camera is not such an easy thing. I'm sure that you've had some hosts who have been really struggling with that.
Yeah, it's bad. And some people think that it's cool to wear a hat, you know, and or
Or
even
have little teddy bear like mine.
like that.
Well, this is gonna go on YouTube as
It's
well.
not cool. It's not cool.
It's gonna go on YouTube as well. So it's gonna be, well, broadcast. I use Anchor as a
Yeah.
tool, but yeah.
So
What's that? A giraffe?
yeah, that's a giraffe, and this is a
Yeah.
cup, right? All right,
Uh-huh.
and this is coffee, and it's because it's like 8:41 in the morning here
Yeah.
in California. So I took that picture at the Honolulu Zoo um, a couple of years ago when Joanne and I were there, and so it's a great picture. And so what it shows is striving. You know, the giraffe is striving to get that food up top there and the tree, right? And so what you need is, if you're going to do TV, you need a visual like that, okay? Or like your red scarf, or like
Yes.
this
You need to
picture there.
thrive and roar in front of the
Yeah.
camera, and you
So
need
you
to.
see that?
I say it again. You need to make love to the camera.
Well, being in France, it's not a problem. But maybe somebody from Germany or Japan wouldn't be comfortable doing that. But I think,
Well, it's
well,
another. It's a different culture. We're getting
yeah,
people from different cultures and different people, different groups. Well, anyway, it's been a chance, an honor again to talk to you,
and
to have you on my show,
for
which
me.
is the Voices of Change show, and you make a real change because you have had to reinvent yourself since the COVID, and you're still alive, as everyone can say, can see. And so it's been an honor, and again, tell the people how they can get in touch with you, and then we will end the Voices of Change show for today.
So behind me is this picture I took in Venice. That's one of the small canals. I was
All
on
right.
one of those bridges, and then we liked it, and so we had it enlarged and then stretched. And so that's a picture of a small canal. And see this white building on my right there?
Yeah.
That's actually a five-star restaurant. And then you see the trees right in the back of it.
Yeah.
That's their outside seating area, and that was way before COVID. So they had the idea of people sitting outside, and
So
so
how can people reach out to you? They go on
yeah,
globalbusinessnews.net,
net
right?
globalbusinessnews.net. That was
Okay.
formed and set up by a friend of mine who worked as a developer at Intel Corporation in Silicon Valley, and it's still there. But we have several other subsidiary pages, including globalradiotalkshow.com
Mm.
and also Global TV Talk Show.
Yes,
Uh,
and
but they all connect.
dear listeners of the Voices of Change show, please get back to Ed if you want to be invited to his show, because this is great. It's a great show. It has thousands of people who listen every day and every second of the day to his show. It's a much bigger show than mine, and it's been an honor to have you, Ed. Thank you so much again, and talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. And we've had, according to Google Analytics, 102,000 audience page views since April 2020.
Wow.
Amazing.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
welcome, welcome. Talk to you soon.
And come back on Global TV Talk Show
Yes,
as
I
my
will. I
as
will.
my
And
guest.
many other people. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Goodbye.
Ciao.